All right, here we go. Well, I put together a little practice video on pool 14 on the Mississippi River, the Upper Mississippi. If you haven't watched that, I'll ask that you go back and watch it. It's a pretty good video. It walks through the practice and what I did for this tournament. The next video I'm going to show you is going to be about the actual tournament that we had. Recap of the practice. I was there for about 2 days and spent a lot of time riding around on the Mississippi. I was fishing with my local club. And you talk about some guys that can fish. My local club is full of some big sticks. I mean, these guys are local hammers and some of the best anglers I've fished against. And they're real familiar with Wisconsin and the Mississippi River. But Pool 14 was new. The club had never fished there, so pretty level playing field, and usually advantage for me when we've never been somewhere. However, locking was allowed, so I didn't anticipate that 90% of the club would lock up and go to Pool 13. And in that group of people that locked up was a former co-angler of mine who's fished with me a couple times, and needless to say, I'd found a little sweet spot in Pool 13, and I knew with these water conditions it'd probably be on and he was going to run to it. And he did a great job of executing up there and almost pulled it off, but he didn't quite have enough. But he said the spot was on fire, but he had to go up there and execute, and that he did. So hats off to him for doing a good job, because he was the only other boater to catch a limit of fish, and he did a great job up there. But to the pre-fish, I established 3 solid patterns in pre-fish. I had a Nico rig that, which nail on the head, whatever you want to call it, wacky rig with a nail on the head, and I could catch them real good with that. I mean, that was the numbers bait by far. I could catch them, in brush. I could catch them on current seams. I could catch them a lot of different places with that setup. Rock walls, etc. Riprap. It just seemed to work all over the place, and I thought that was going to be the way we were going to go. I also had found a frog bite. We had high water when we got there, but it was falling fast. And so I was worried about that, but that bite would evaporate, and it did. But moving on down, late in my practice, I picked up a chatterbait. I was coming from another tournament, from a grass tournament, so I was rigged. It was already in a rod locker rigged, and so right off the bat, I fished it for 20 minutes and had over 10 pounds in the boat, and I knew I was onto something right away, and I was like, okay, I got about another quarter day of practice left here, and let's see what I could learn. And I started putting together a pattern, started catching some fish, and by the time it was all said and done, the chatterbait clearly caught bigger fish. Didn't catch as many fish as the Nico rig, but the chatterbait clearly was catching slightly a tick up size fish, and it was definitely getting bigger bites. And so I went into the tournament pretty confident that, I'd get my limit pretty easily. Boy, was I wrong on that. They were sucking that water down so fast, it was unreal. So I opted to go to a couple current seam spots first. Thought I'd fill my limit in about 20 minutes. That didn't happen. I was scrambling around pretty good, and then I was like, okay, this water is moving. I thought it was going to be, easy to get my limit. So I ran back into my first offshore spot, and lo and behold, my first backwater spot, lo and behold, it's got two of the guys are in there fishing. We only got I don't know how many boats there were, but it was not very many, and 2 of them were in there fishing. What are the odds? In my primary spot in this backwater, there was a guy was in there, and he was working it pretty hard. So I just ran on up in there and said, well, I'll run deep up in here on pad and get away from everybody. And it just didn't happen up there, and bluebird skies, and I'm like, I need some cloud cover. And according to the weather forecast, it was going to start to cloud up as the day went on. Well, I heard a boat fire up, in the distance, and so I came back down through the canal, and sure enough, he was coming out of that spot. So I ran back, I went in there behind him, even though we just fished it, and made a great decision. I wasn't in that little cut for 5 minutes, and I lost 2 fish, and one of them was just a keeper, but one of them was over 4, and that's what you need on the Mississippi River, is that big bite. It just, catching the keeper fish is usually not a problem. It's getting those quality bites that's a problem. So losing that fish, I knew was going to haunt me, and I assessed the situation real quick. What did I do wrong? Why didn't and I realized, all of a sudden I'm on top of the cover. I need to back off. So boat position was critical. So started repositioning the boat a little better, using my power poles and holding myself off the cover, and that made a world difference. And within the next 40 minutes, I filled my limit out and had a couple decent ones in there. And then I made a critical move, and and I picked up the frog, and I'd found this little spot right off the main river. It was just a little cutout, man-made cutout, and there was a culvert in the back of it that was underwater, and it had some brush in front of it. And in practice, I really leaned on that spot. And like I said, because the purpose of this pre-fish was not for the club event, it was for a future tournament. So I was kind of doing a practice for a later tournament. That was the focus. And it's great to use the club because, like I said, some great sticks in this club. And Mike Rubino was fishing, who was a phenomenal river fisherman, and he stayed in the pool with me. Unfortunately, his boat broke down. I have a feeling he would have given me a run for my money in pool 14 because he practiced with me later and showed me some of the water he fished, very similar to what I had fished, and he had found a really sweet spot that had the potential to really light it up. But, hey, breakdowns are part of it. But anyway, so I go in there and, you'll see it in the video. First cast with the frog, boom, I put a big 3-pounder in the boat. And I was like, bam, all right, it reloaded, awesome. And then I go and I catch another one, it doesn't help me, it's a keeper. And then I catch another one and it doesn't help me, it's a keeper. And then all of a sudden a golf cart pulls out, 3 kids get off of it and a dad. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Public lake, Saturday morning. Kind of expect this to happen with boats, but not bank fishermen. Needless to say, there was not enough room for 5 people to fish this little small cutout. Lines crossing, da-da-da-da. And, of course, Dad hooks a big fish, one that I would have definitely been able to call with, loses it at the bank, doesn't get to pet it, and I'm like, okay, it's just too crowded in here, and I pull out and I left. I had a phenomenal rest of the day going. I caught a bunch of fish. I made a small call, a couple ounces here and there, a couple calls, and I just kept pegging away, but I knew I needed to get another solid 4-pound bite, to get back in the game. And all I could think about was the fish I lost earlier. I ran up to the dam, to the spillway area, and I had some laydowns and some current up there, and that's where I first found the chatterbait bite. And again, I just fished that the evening before, so I really wasn't really confident that it was going to be reloaded. But the fact that it was heavy current in there gave me a little confidence, and I could only get the power pole to hook when I was right up against the bank because it was a drop off. Got in there, and the first laydown I come to, position the boat, start making my presentation, and you watch that video, you'll see, inch by inch, foot by foot, just taking these logs and laydowns apart. That was the key. I would make 10 to 15 casts and just work it a little bit. And basically, and then finally get that, make that cast and get it further back in the cover that, other anglers wasn't making that presentation with a chatterbait or whatever. Most people would only flip in that kind of stuff. And then finally, bam, it happens. I hook up with what turned out to be my biggest fish of the day, a 314, put it in the boat. Life was good. Massive call. I got rid of a 2 1/4. Now, I was like, okay. When I released that fish, I said, that's my small one. Because I knew what my small fish was at that point. But now I had no clue. And it was getting late in the day, so I ran back downstream. And it was kind of funny because it's perfect timing. You'll hear the boats in the video, running by. The lock opened up, and all the guys that locked up come back through the lock. And I was fishing my current seams now, and I hook up, and and I wasn't sure if it was going to be a good enough fish or not. But so I get that fish in, and I'm looking at it, and I do a quick evaluation of the fish, and I knew right away. I thought, man, this fish is going to help me. It was a stocky little fish. You'll see it in the video. So I start the culling procedure, and I don't know what the smallest fish is. I've been culling all day, and, I've got 2 solid ones on one side of the live well, and then I got these, these other 3 that basically are all pretty similar. So I kind of look at it and make a quick assessment of what I think is the smallest one, slap it on there, no call. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to have to go through all 3 fish. And bottom line was, so I spend the next, eats up a bunch of my time, not knowing what the smallest fish was. And that's when I realized I had a pretty decent bag at that point in time, but I was a little surprised, to be honest, that it was a no call. So there was no more time. It was basically the end of the day for me. There was not a lot of options for me. I felt like, okay, I just caught the biggest fish off this current seam. I had another area, but it was just too tricky to get into with that heavy current. I didn't feel confident trying to get the boat in there and tearing my boat up, especially in a club event. So I opted to pull the trolling motor and go to scales and put it on the trailer and find out if I had enough. And lo and behold, it was enough. That the key fish I catch up by the dam, without that bite, I probably would have lost. No question. Glad I got that fish in. It was a critical bite. I had a great day fishing. I easily caught 30 plus keepers in the day. And that sounds easy, but it was a grind because getting that bigger bite, that's what's hard. Just kept plugging away, and by the end of the day, I had 2 better than average bites in the live well, and I lost one, my biggest fish of the day, which would have gave me the sweep and got big bass. I lost that fish, and that's always painful when that happens. I did stick it on there. You can't get a good look at the fish, but you can hear it fighting water, me taking it around the nose of the boat and lose it. It's not the way you want to start your morning when you're struggling, especially. So, and there's a lot of the fish catches, as I said, are missing. I apologize for that, but I was focusing on tournament, not necessarily the video fishing. And but anyway, please like and subscribe my video if you like what I'm doing. I'll try to get a lot more out. I've got a ton of footage to get uploaded during the off season now, and I'll get it up. I didn't post this one earlier in the year because I had a tournament there late in the year, and I didn't want to give away obviously what I was doing, because a lot of people in Illinois do follow me, and but water conditions changed. Needless to say, when that fall tournament came along, I got my butt kicked. So that's fishing. But please follow me on my channels as I ask, and hit that like and subscribe button. And thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the water.